Welcome back, Keepers of the Flame. Okay, I was working on some stuff, and Spirit kept tapping me and kept tapping about the last reading. Okay. So, when we have people trying to siphon our energy, it's not because, we called it in. That's what spirituality. I'm trying to put this as gently as possible without rattling the spiritual freaking bird cage they got running right now. So just be mindful that you're not attracting that. What's happening is because if you are shining in an authentic way rather than this is how you vibe in the world, this is how you have to do it. When you get inside yourself and you become your own guru, so to speak, and you don't have to listen to outside narratives in order to exist in the world, it just auto comes. So when you shine an authentic light, not someone else's preconceived notion of how you are supposed to be in the world, all high vibe, good vibes only, blah 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 blah. It's like religion's in the meat grinder, and they're just holding the chalice, catching the juices underneath it, going, "Here's your cup." Nope, cup's in here. Cup's always been in here. We do not outsource. Okay. And so you will automatically attract people who will be outraged by that, and they will not show you the outrage. They will show you how magnificent they think you are, and yada yada yada. This is where the love bombing comes into play. Okay, so this is what spiritual folk, people who consider themselves sensitive. I do not use the M path because it's an emotional path that gives you one modality of existence rather than being a whole being. You need to get your mental stuff online. Okay, we don't just operate from feeling or emotions. We need to bring the whole system in together. Okay, the gut instinct is directly connected to this. These are important mechanisms that tend to get shut down if we are just focusing on one label of things. So take the whole of you with you. Take the whole person, not the high part, which cuts off. So like there's your heart chakra, and then they cut you off right below that because they do not want your will involved in any of this. This is why I don't appreciate the high vibe, because it's not a very conscious way of experiencing life. Because they are literally cutting you off right below the heart chakra, hijacking it, and then telling you how to live your life. That's dangerous because your core chakra, this is why they like to ignore all those lower chakras. Your core chakra is your own purpose and will. This is why they hijack everything from the heart up. Okay? This is where their focus is. They don't want you to know anything about the heart system. Definitely not. And those lower three chakras, those are the devil. Okay? Do you see how that's not conducive to living a happy, healthy life? This pisses people off to no end when you just take things in and filter them through each and every system of the body, and then decide to become whole instead of bits and parts and pieces that they can pluck apart. Okay, this is crucial to being a sovereign individual, is we are not going to pluck the chakras apart anymore. We are going to become a tie-dyed pattern of intermingled energies that communicate with each other, that have sovereignty over us as our own authentic being, that the outside world has to just witness. Okay? And they have to get physical consent if they want access to your energy. I cannot express this enough. Ugh. So when we use words like no or not or don't, won't, shouldn't, anything with no or not in a conjunction, it negates the sentence you just said. So you're focusing on the thing that you don't want rather than what you do want. Always say I want, or it is, blah, 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 whatever it is. So rather than saying, I don't want to go through that again, say, I choose a different path than the past. Okay? So these are little mechanisms for you to start protecting your energy, because what you speak, you are speaking into existence. The word is the power, remember? They take little teeny tiny kernels of truth, jerk you when you get your mouth hooked, and jerk you in a different direction. Okay? This is why we are waiting around in this atrocious harvest season once again. Okay? So realize the kernel of truth that, yep, your word manifests, and they have set up the logos in order for you to completely sabotage yourself every single time if you do not take it into your system and comprehend how this resonates out into the ethos and then comes back to earth as your manifestation. Okay. And again, they will try to do horrible things to you simply because they don't like how you operate in the world. They wish they could do the same, but rather than put that energy into learning how to do that for themselves, they will put that energy into any sort of sabotage they can, when in reality, when you do this sort of thing with your battery, with your vital life force energy, all you're doing is creating your own misery. I mean, can you just think about the energetic patterns that would have to occur in somebody's system in order for them to conceive of the fact that they have the goal in mind that they're going to obstruct someone else's life path for whatever reason. For whatever reason. Even if that person, they perceive that person to have done them terribly wrong. When you step in the path of divine justice, you are now taking on not only that person's karma because you just stepped in front of it, but now you're doubling down on your own bad karma. I mean, it's like a ka-tink, 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 okay? It doesn't make any sense, and this is what's pissing people off in the ethos. They're like, why aren't, or not in the ethos, but in the, how do I put this? People that are still stuck in the matrix and opening themselves up to being Agent Smiths for the purposes of which they rarely understand. Okay, so this is, it's so messed up, and people have it so wrong. You know, when you pray, there has to be a predator. When you high vibe, there has to be a low vibe. This universe has a one tippy top rule in that it must be balanced. It has to be balanced. So when you create one dichotomy, there has to be a dichotomy in the other realm, in the other side of it. So picture yourself tootling along, and you're like, I'm gonna high vibe. And the universe is like, cool, they're high vibing. Okay? But if you're only taking this part with you and somebody else has hijacked it and told you what your narrative is supposed to be, like societal standards, religious standards, politics, whatever it is, if you are not living the authenticness with the whole being, root to crown, you are a walking Agent Smith. You are open to complete and utter destruction and corruption. It's just how it is. Like, I'm not blaming or shaming. I'm just saying the hijacking is real. Okay? So it's not that anybody's consciously choosing this. They have been told consistently for thousands of years that some sort of outside authority should have dictatorship over their existence. Okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm not shaming anybody. I'm not saying those people need to have something bad happen to them. Absolutely not. I'm saying the unconsciousness of separating yourself entirely and then giving it over to some other power, not a great idea. When you want protection or you want some sort of, whatever it is to manifest in your life, you call it in. You don't step out. You don't say, hey, person thing that has more power than me over there. Nope. That's already inside. That's already in here. Okay? That is already in here, and then in your sacral. Okay? That's already existing in you. The divine three. It's already in you. That's why they like alignment. Okay, but the problem is alignment, they say, is between the head and the heart. They do not address those lower chakras. I cannot express this enough. You are in deep-ish. If you are conducting yourself inside one of those narratives, you are in deep-ish. Okay? Those are not bad, wrong places. Those are the places we create from. And we have a whole new world that we need to start working on while the other one crumbles. Okay, so stepping into your own authenticity is going to piss a lot of unhealed people off. Make them put on shades. Hitty be get a weeby. Okay? Do not allow them access to your energy just because they feel like their butt hurt. Okay? We have a lot of people out there that will scream victim so you come running and then will corrupt the system. You empower people to heal themselves. You do not take that on for yourself. You give them the tools required and say, I love you. You have my full support. I appreciate your existence. Go with peace and sovereignty, and may you heal yourself for yourself. That's where we're getting things really screwed up. Again, if you deny someone else their own sovereignty, you are automatically giving up your own. Okay. We've got to be diligent about how this beautiful universe likes to balance itself. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves kind of a shithole. Okay. Okay. So I'm not saying this to shame people or put them down. I am saying this because there's an energetic pattern that's continuously playing itself. And you can look back out on history and see how it continues to manifest itself. Okay. Again, however, if you need to see that lens through some other lens of whatever narrative, then that's okay. Might not be the best channel for you, but that's okay. However, in my own energy and my own environment, I do require a sovereign being, which means there's no outside narrative running my story. Okay, my story is my story, and no holy text is going to infringe upon that. Okay, I am a sovereign human being. Religion has its place in history, and that's just going to have to be acknowledged here as way I see it is another mythological story to take control of the population. That's what we're running here. Okay. I'm not saying there's no truth in there. I'm not saying it's all evil and that it's blah, 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 blah. I am saying the production of energy is traceable throughout history. And we're reliving it again, some more, harder. And we're just turning a blind eye to it, calling it, people aren't believing enough anymore. And it's like, no, we are in the fruition. Okay, the manifestation of the people leaving religion has not begun to happen yet. Because if you look at people like Sweden, who's they do not run off any sort of religious narrative. They're a secular, I want to say, state. And most of the planet is not. Most of the planet is not. They have the best outcome of human function on the planet. Okay. Again, when they talk you out of this and they only keep you in the EM path, the emotion, the energy in motion, emotional path, then you're going to ignore this. You're not going to want to connect the dots because you think the EM path is the only existence you're allowed to embody. So when we're dealing with narratives and labels and things like that, easy on yourself. Don't force everything you are into those narratives. Honor that state of yourself, absolutely, but don't cut yourself off at the neck, okay? Don't do that for any community, because you're a whole person. The totality of you, root to crown, is sacred. Don't let people slice you into little teeny tiny shards, because that's how they get to come in and be like, well, how come you're not blah 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 blahing? How come life isn't blah 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 blahing and blah blah blah? Because you asked me to put myself into a teeny tiny little box, so I had to chisel away at parts of myself that are crucial to my existence. So just come into the realization that all of you is sacred. Even the shadow parts that nobody wants to look at, that you feel icky about, learn how to get uncomfortable. Learn how to get uncomfortable. Get real uncomfortable in those shadow spaces. Admit to yourself the horrors that you are capable of. And that's how we stop them from happening. Because if we look at them, we can actually keep them in check. If we sit with the reality of the situation that we could be doing terrible things out in the community right now, and that it's a very real possibility that we could just do as much harm in whatever capacity that's available to us, if we come to terms with that, we can actually keep it in check. If we come to that and say, okay, I realize this is a wounded part of myself, and that when it's touched, it can lash out. Or when provoked, or when I ignore, or when this happens, whatever the trigger might be, I just need to love this part of myself the way it was never loved before, which is where it sparks the pain, and then the lash out, whichever direction happens to be, comes. I'm just going to love it. I'm going to say, I understand your pain, your frustration, your anger, your outrage. I completely comprehend it. But let's take it to a state of compassion, fierce self-compassion, and say, you're right, what happened wasn't fucking cool. But perpetuating it out into the real world is not going to solve anything. It's going to keep the cycle running. So let's find an outlet. Do art, sing, write music, play music, pull cards, go to the gym, beat the crap out of a pillow, whatever the heck it means for you. I'm not here to judge and say what you can and can't do with your outrage, as long as it's not hurting yourself or others. Okay? So, again, when we stick with that one solid narrative, our lives have been hijacked. Okay? So, realize that you are a brilliant, sacred person. Realize that you are a emotional, sacred person. Realize that you are a spiritual, psychological, sacred person. Psychology is the study of the soul. And if you ask me, they fucked it up real good. Okay, so spirituality and psychology, I am a sacred person. Right, spirit comes through breath. So spirit's kind of in the lungs. Soul is the energy that tethers us to the earth, which is why they want you to ignore those 3 lower chakras, so they can hijack your soul anytime they wish. Freaking hard truths here. Keepers of the flame. I'm gonna hold that torch up. Be like that devil. You're not getting through the gate. Unless you can look where I'm lighting up right now. And that's a difficult task. I had to go through it. And I'm not saying it's easy at all. It is not. It is not. But when we can get more people safe and sovereign in their own skin, in their own bodies, in their own minds, in their own hearts, in their own guts, and in their own sexual organs, okay, rather than shaming them and whatever else, calling them sacred, and just simply saying, you know, the next time I decide to use that function, I am going to treat it sacred. It is a sacred part of who I am, so I'm going to refrain from abusing it. I am not talking purity culture here. I am talking the next person I engage that with is going to be completely and totally whatever. And maybe it's my Stellar Nations placements that has like a lot to do with tantric, whatever it is. So, something apparently I'm supposed to get into. That's what it has to be in order to not be used. Well, and that's just the thing. Again, from the heart on up. So you're disconnected from your core, your will, your sacral, which is your sexuality, and your root, where you find stability in the world. Yeah, that's the high vibe. Careful, okay? Careful. So you hold the truth of the entire being, not just the high vibe, the whole vibe. The whole vibe can be lifted on a frequency. So, and denying the fact that, you know, there's a lot of collective people out there that are experiencing what the collective is experiencing, not just the rich people, right? This is the class war system. High vibes, the low vibe people, they're not going to make it to the new earth. Excuse me? Excuse me. What did you just imply? Excuse me? You said what again? Did you just imply that there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to make it to New Earth? That is a very peculiar and alarming thing to say, don't you think? Okay, do you see how we're being hijacked? Do you comprehend that we need to proceed with caution, diligence, and actual consciousness? Okay, because they're going to make it feel good, they're going to make it sound good, and we are going to be on the same train of perpetuating what's already happened in history. We've already paid witness to it. We don't need to keep that cycle running on the old web. We need to be constructing a new one. And that means not allowing other people to come in and feed our brains and filtrate through our systems and narrative that's just the old one with prettier words. Okay? We do need to be diligent about that. Spirit is not letting me work until I say that. Okay. Are we good? So, and this will keep happening. Every time I get a touch from Spirit, it'll keep coming on. That, again, not even taking my word, taking it through your entire system, your entire being, and feeling how you need to feel in your own system. Okay? What brings safety to the entire system, not to the heart above here. Okay? To the whole system, where your hips and your sacral chakra and your root chakra feel safe, connected to your own body. Because a lot of times what we don't realize is that we store the trauma in our hips, which is why they do not want us to touch those. Okay? So we store trauma in our hips, and there's a breathing pattern that needs to take place where your shoulders are not taking on all the weight. Because they are not allowing the vibration, the frequency to get anywhere below your heart chakra. Your hips are going to be misaligned, and this is where you get people who have hip problems. Okay, this is not everything separate. Frequency, energy, vibration is all the way through the body, all the way through the body. I cannot tell you how many countless women I have talked to that have hip replacements and spinal surgeries because of their hip problems. It's a freaking epidemic, at least from my experience. I'm not speaking for the whole world, but it's a serious issue. Okay, so bringing your whole awareness into those parts of your body, into those chakra systems, So your whole body is taken forward rather than you having to reject everything that's below the heart. Okay. This is why I do what I do, is because it has real world repercussions. Everything does. Anything you put out in the spiritual space has a biological effect on the system. It's not separate from each other. Okay? It's just not. It never was and it never will be. It doesn't matter what you do or how you think. It's never going to be different. You have an energetic pattern you're running. It is going to be the energetic pattern that produces in your system. Okay? So just bring that awareness to you are a whole person. Yes, you might feel everything so deeply. You might have an inner knowing. You might have an inner smelling. You might have an inner tasting. You might have an inner healing. You might have an inner thinking. Inner knowing and inner thinking are different. Knowing is in the gut. Thinking is in the mind. Like, think Good Will Hunting. The dude who could just do the math. That's the inner thinker. Okay? So don't disqualify those people either. What else? I feel like, when you touch things, like when if you touch an object, even like sometimes if you don't have your shield up, if you're not doing your Batman thing, and you touch another human, you get a spark of something that feels a little invasive. So just remember, it's great to have those things, but it's really good to keep them sacred, to keep them whole, and to use them in ways that are not being hijacked by the outside world. To get access to that inner muse, that inner intuition that is going to lead you authentically, your own higher self, rather than having to depend on an outside narrative, which never bodes well for humanity, unfortunately. Okay? So, and this is what's coming online. We're going to see this show up in all different patterns. The youth are rejecting the teachers right now. It's biologically based. Everything that's happening right now is a biological response to the narratives we've been attached to for thousands and thousands of years. It's biology kicking into high gear with the age of Aquarius and Pluto in Aquarius. Now going direct. I think it's station direct, November 29th. Okay, so everything is in hyperdrive right now. Everything. Every aspect of human life, human existence is now in hyperdrive. Okay, so this is why everything is coming to fruition and is changing fast, because it has to. It has to. We have to get off this toxic train before we do, as a species, no longer exist on the planet. If you think about how much extinction, not just religion and science and politics, but as we have been forced into doing with everything that we consume via poisons, plastics, whatever it is, we are now part of that toxic waste that goes into the planet. We are now all doing that because we have to live. Okay, so this is all coming into consciousness. Things are going to drastically change. We need to take a deep breath, get safe in the body, so we can make the adaptations with a beautiful and conscious, intuition driven being on a holistic scale. Okay? And we can get into another topic about what's happening with the sex organs and why they need you to ignore them. But that's a topic for another video. But whole vibe. You are a whole sacred being. And not just your emotional path that matters. It's your mental path. It's your heart path. It's your intuition path. It's your soul and your spirit coming into full alignment and recognizing the totality of you is sacred, not just bits and parts and pieces that are easy to manipulate. Okay? The whole of you. Get your spicy era on. I'm not telling you to go full villain, but get your spice on. Just a little bit. Just a little bit of spicy spice, so that way the wholeness comes in to existence without people from the outside being able to come in and shame you out of whatever it is. Okay? So just keep that in mind moving forward. There's nothing in you that isn't sacred. It just has been ignored and rejected and forgotten about, which allows that festering to happen. Okay? Allows it to happen. If we don't look at the primal aspects of ourselves, okay, the lizard brain, yeah, it has real potential to do horrible, terrible things in society because it's being ignored and suppressed. It's not being acknowledged, appreciated, loved, and held sacred. This is how everything operates. Everything in nature has a purpose, and once we ignore that purpose and try to override it, that's when bad things happen. Okay? If we learn anything from the Nazi whitecoats, that's when bad things happen. Okay? So rather than ignore and suppress, uplift, look to hold sacred, honor those parts of yourself that have kept you protected and that would do bad things in order to keep you safe. Okay? And tell them it's safe now. You don't need to be afraid. I am here. I am with you. I'm not going to abandon you, neglect you, or ignore you any longer. I hold you sacred, and I comprehend that you are here for my survival. Let's work together for the highest good of all, rather than ignoring one another and then lashing out when things get really heated or stressful. Okay? May your path forward be serene and calm, and your intuition always be with you. Okay? Keep your flame. Until next time, I love you.